Hey everybody, Tim here with special co-host Little Bear. Tonight's episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 6, Episode 18, Starship Mine. This is a good episode. It's not a great episode. In fact, it's pretty thinly written, but it's pretty interesting. So the Enterprise is being basically cleaned because it has too much, like I think they said boron radiation or buildup or whatever. It's kind of a MacGuffin. Like, this is something you never hear about ever again in any show or episode, at least to my knowledge. I don't recall them ever doing this again. It's just kind of for this one episode, for this plot point. And so what it is the Enterprise is being scanned from the rear to the front, and it's basically cleaning it. And any biological organisms will be killed instantly. And so everybody is evacuated off the Enterprise. Well, and this it's kind of interesting because there's a character, Commander Hutchinson, and he's supposed to be really good at small talk, and so him and Data have some great scenes together. So Picard finds out that there's horse-like animals on the planet, and we've seen Picard interested in horses several times throughout the series, and so he gets really excited. So he's like, okay, we got 20 minutes before the scan starts. I'm going to beam back to the Enterprise, grab my saddle, because all serious riders have their own saddle, don't they, Little Bear? And then come back. So he gets there, and he realizes that there's some people on board that are trying to steal some trilithium. Which is interesting because when we get to Generations, they act like they've never heard of trilithium. But anyway, so these people have like pretended to be workers, and they've boarded the Enterprise. Which I want to stop there for just a second. It's really kind of interesting that one of these people is played by Tim Russ. This is his first Star Trek role. We'll see him again briefly in the movie Generations, and then he's probably most famous for playing Tuvok in Voyager. And then he goes on to direct a whole bunch of stuff. He directed the Star Trek movie Gods and Men. So Tim Russ has actually kind of lived the dream. He's shared scenes with Picard, Kirk, and Janeway. So, I mean, kudos to him. He's like the ultimate fan that won the lottery. So, and unfortunately, he gets killed really quickly in this movie, or in this episode. So Kirk is on board, and he's basically just doing all he can. And you basically see Kirk kind of as a badass. It's like Die Hard or Rambo or something, where he's like walking around with a crossbow from Worf's quarters, and he's setting up little bombs so when they step on them, they explode. And he's just doing all that he can to prevent these people from breaking in. And it's interesting to go back to Tim Russ's character. Picard actually does like the Vulcan neck pinch on him, which I'm assuming he learned this from mind melding with Sarek, and it's just kind of a reoccurring thing that's just stuck in his brain. But I'm pretty sure this is the first non-Vulcan person to do the neck pinch successfully, at least. So that kind of stood out to me. And after he's caught, he says that he's Mott the Barber, which is kind of interesting because it just shows how important that character is. He's really like a B character, and we don't see him a whole bunch. But, I mean, the fact that they named him and Picard pretends to be him is kind of interesting, at least to me. Of course, things work out in the end, and Picard's kind of a savage. Like, if you think about it, all of the people that he subdued, like Tim Russ, he just knocked him out, but he put him in a locker, and then by the end of the episode, this wave is all the way up to 10 forward. So, like, that guy's dead. A couple other people clearly died from this wave. And then at the very end, he basically pulls the pin on the trilithium, and so it explodes in their getaway shuttle, and so all those people are dead. Like, Picard's kind of a savage in this episode. It's very uncharacteristic. So, for those who have seen this, like I said, it's an interesting episode, and it has a lot of really good scenes, but on the whole, like, I feel like it was really thinly written. It was just basically like, hey, what if we did this? Like Home Alone, but with Picard. So, for those who have seen this one, did you guys like it? Did you think it do you think it stands on its own as a good episode? Or do you guys feel that it was kind of just a fluff piece? Go ahead, let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for everything, and I will see you next time for lessons.